Okay. Okay. Anyway, all right. Here we go. All right, let's go. Yeah. So we're up to. How you see? All right. What was that? Yeah. So okay. So no. So we're up to it's the middle of a sugya, but it's not really. We can handle it. It's not middle of a sugya like sort of problematic middle of a sugya. You know what I mean? Lamed. Yeah. Lamed for base. Basically, the central question of the Gemora is the following. When it comes to psak halacha and decisions of a beis din, do you have to be concerned? How much do we take into account what's called zilusa de beit din, which basically means how much of a PR disaster is it going? I mean, I'm putting it crudely, but how much of a PR disaster is it to retract or to revise our decision? That's really the question. Okay. How much of a disaster is it to revise our decision? And on the one hand, you think to yourself, well, obviously, what do you mean? If you make a mistake, clearly you have to revise your decision, right? But it's not fun. But it's not so simple. It's not so simple because again, at the end of the day, there are certain cases where you make a decision in good faith, and then a certain piece of evidence comes up afterwards, or whatever. And the question is, do we have to, let's say, how much do we take that into account? Is it something which we have to reckon with? I'm just trying to think whether, because I mean, the case we had in the Gemora was where, the case in the Gemora was where they ended up having equal edus. Do you remember? Instead of we had a case originally, one of them had edim, but it was his ancestors, his avos, and then he also had, and also edim had chazaka, and the other one only had edim chazaka, and not edim that belonged to his ancestors as well, right? And then he brought edim again, and he also brought edim as edim avos that belonged to his ancestors. So now it's really quits. The edim all now cancel each other out. So the psak should be, okay, called alim gvar. We let anyone whoever wins, because they're both equal. And what that means exactly, whether it means to bringing proofs, whether it means physically, whatever. But the point is that is the normal. That is what we should say. That is what we should say. But here, here to do that means that it looks like Rashbam says domine chochovitz lolo. It looks like it cheapens beis din. It makes beis din look wrong. People will end up lowering their respect for beis din. And that's going to be a problem. I just want to see if there's something here on this that would help that. Ramadan base. Because the question really is how, to what extent would we say this? If there's something, let's say blatant evidence comes to light that it was wrong. That's not quite the same as our case. Our case, they end up being, we gave a psak one way, and then we have edus, which means they're now equal. It's still a sophic, exactly. Exactly. So, so then it might be different. I just don't know whether Okay, if you know to tell the truth. Yeah. Because there's a, you go on, so what are you saying?
How does this work practically? Because based on what we're saying is that if it's Reuben and Shimon won, we kick Reuben off the land.
Yeah.
Shimon moved back in.
Yeah.
And then more like 6 months later, Reuben turned up to basically with a bunch of Eidim and it's like it's nothing.
Yeah. Rav Nachman says, "Anon achtine, anon askinone." We put him in, we'll take him out. Finish.
There's no concept of kind of once there's a Gemara then you have to kind of start.
Statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations is when you kind of have a kind of a punishment or something. This is more of a case of, once you paskin something, surely if they want to come with the Reagan, they've got to open a whole new din from scratch. But we're saying that the din is always the
It's potential, it's always possible. We seem to be saying, if we say that, though, it's always possible to open it again.
It's really a conflict between trying to establish the truth of a matter.
Yeah.
Because if it turns out that the actual second pair of Eidim are, for whatever reason, more convincing, have more perfumus, then they should. Why should he lose out?
So
Why should Reuven lose out?
So it's the truth. It's the truth that is subjective at that time. Correct, George W. Bush.
For something like this, which is not there's nothing irreversible about somebody having some land and then having it taken away.
Yeah, and that's what Rabbi Nachman said. It's also they dinner like Hoshina, because that's the reality of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is also, look, la halacha, we paskin that we are not concerned about as it was the Medina. So in this specific case, the halacha is it kuf mevav sif gilchot gimel, kuf mevav sif gimel. Kuf mevav, yeah. Yeah. Chof gimel. Yeah. Okay, I think we should leave that to the side for the moment. We need to try and see if we can resolve this question of how, to what extent, if you hold that we are worried about the dinner, the way it looks and the PR damage and disaster and everything else, which is to what extent? Is it only in a case where ultimately it was a suffix anyway, so we don't have a way of resolving it, right? It's all, but let's say there's a new piece of evidence completely contradicts what we've said before, then it's much harder to say, to say that you that you don't touch it. Either Nachman says we disregard that and we go with the evidence, and we said that Rav Nachman seemed to revise what he said and not paskin like that, but then he actually ended up going like he said. He went like paskin who said that we go with the new evidence that has come to light. And the Gemora says we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think 10 lines up from the bottom of the Yomon. Man de Choza, he said Nofak Ovadov, he went and paskined the way he originally said, that we hold we do look at the new evidence, and we don't just sort of treat what happened before, and we don't just say, well, they were paskin it and that's it. So man de Choza, some those who saw it thought that he made a mistake because he'd said that he wasn't going to go with his psak, Rav Nachman. Yeah, because he originally said, I'm changing my mind because you brought me various people. More brought a number of brought a case that seemed to prove that he was wrong. We are worried about Zilus to be dinner, right? So he seemed to say, okay, I changed my mind. But then he went with his psak. Why? They thought maybe he made a mistake. He said, no, I didn't make a mistake. The reason why he paskin in this way was because he found 3 significant authorities, actually like big trees. He found 3 big trees big opinions, authorities, in other words, Tanoim, who all were not worried about Zilosul de Beidina in their psak. In the way they paskin, they weren't worried about the way it looked to based it. Okay? And who are those 3? Those 3 are Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Loza, and Shimon Gamliel. And the thing is, to get there, we have to go through the whole case, because we have to understand how we resolve that these three opinions hold this way. And there's a very fascinating Mishnah. It's a Mishnah in Ksubas. The Mishnah says, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, it might ring a vague bell for those who learn it. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, it says, Ein ma'ale nekuna al pi eid echad. You cannot be ma'ale nekuna al pi eid echad. That means to say, if you have one aid that comes along and says someone is a Kohen, that is not enough. That is not enough, okay, to establish someone, give him a chazak of a Kohen. Now, chazak of a Kohen is relevant in a number of ways. Duchani, very important, right? Duchani, yeah. But of course, in time of the Beis Hamikdash, avoid in the Beis Hamikdash, eating truma, it's a big deal, right? Everything makes a massive difference. Is he going to get all these things? And Rabbi Yehuda says, you can't be malak on a biyadach. Omer Rabbi Elazar says, Rabbi Elazar doesn't disagree with Rabbi Yehuda. He qualifies what he says. He qualifies, right? And he explains it. Amosai, when is this? Says Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Elazar, sorry, Amosai, when is this? Amosai, Bisman sheishal of Orin. That's only when you have people who have raised questions. People have raised questions against him. What are Orin? Adim. Orim in this concept mean Adim. Adim will come along and disqualify him. Right?
The text, yeah?
Why?
Not
Yeah, I changed it with the Bach. Sorry, I just do that sort of automatically.
Yeah.
I automatically shift into the Bach. It's just it's a habit of many years of. We always told, the Bach, just go with the Bach normally. Not always, normally. Yeah. It was Manshish Orin. This is only when there are Orin. This is when people are raising questions on his status. Adam of Mokum Shein Orin, where there are no people, where there aren't people questioning, right? And again, you've got to be very careful with this terminology. Orin in the Gemora here, as we'll see later on as well, means that there are Adim who are coming along to disqualify him. Okay? But if there are no Orim, now what does it mean there's no Orim? You don't have Adim. But the Rashba says there could be still a Koil. There could be a bit of a noise about him. This guy is not sure he's a Kohen, maybe he's not a Kohen. It's a bit of a question mark over his Kohuna status. Then halacha is Ma'ale Nekuna al pi eid echad. Then you can be Ma'ale Nekuna al pi eid echad. One aid is good enough to establish and verify someone's Kohuna, because one aid is enough to contradict a Koil. I mean, just a noise, a rumor, right? Okay, this is very common. I mean, I say very common. Right? I don't want to worry the Kohen, no. But I say just even we're working on the base in terms of Bira Yichus. Obviously, these type of topics we're very involved in terms of work out people's status, halachic status. Now that can often be Jewish status, but not infrequently it can be working out their status in terms of Kohuna, right? It's important. Even Leviah, because you have to know what's to write on a ksuba. I say, what's enough Gemina? Levi, whether or not he can nowadays. What's the difference? What? Of course, there are many of Gemina. Also, exactly Pidgin Ben and Aliyah Torah. There's all sorts of things, right? And also with a ksuba, you have to know whether you put it on a ksuba or not. And even if it could be that doesn't pass if you leave it out, but even so, you want to do the right thing. So sometimes you will find like a historic record in a family where it's written on the record, because everything we've got very, very good records going back to 1880. And sometimes someone will write, or someone who did it many generations ago will have written on it. We weren't able to verify, the father's status of Kohen, the status of Kohen. Kind of a situation where the family said they were Kohenim, but they were never given Aliyah as the Torah as a Kohen. They were never, someone came along and said they were Kohenim. So is that enough? Is that not? There's a lot of questions. Normally, you don't have to worry about this. Someone walks into shul and says they're a Kohen, you give them an Aliyah. But especially when there's questions, the questions arise over the Kohen status.
You don't marry them. You don't have to marry them, sure. For example.
Depends who they want to marry.
Well, they're married to the seal.
Then there's a problem. That's the question. No, but that's the question. So I had a case the other way around, which I think I shared with you. I had a case the other way around, where to allow the marriage, we wanted to establish that he wasn't a Kohen, because he wanted to marry a lady who wasn't a Christian. This was a very, very difficult case. They were sitting in front of me 4 weeks before their wedding.
The lady wasn't.
I'll tell you the story. The couple was sitting in front of me 4 weeks before their wedding. It's all very confidential. Identified the couple was sitting in front of me 4 weeks before. Yeah. No, the couple was sitting in front 4 weeks before their wedding, and the application, everything looks okay. And then I was sort of, as I'm talking to them, I suddenly see on the form, one of the questions that they have to ask, because they fill in the form originally, they fill it in online. One of the questions they ask is, do you have any children from any previous relationships or whatever, any existing, And I saw she said she'd written she has a son. This lady has a son, and it was a very foreign sounding name, the son. So I said to her, who's the kid? So she said, no, it's okay. And she was marrying a Cohen. She wanted to marry a Cohen. And she said, no, it's okay, because we were never married. It was just a very limited relationship. He lived in South Africa or something like that. What? No, it's not okay, because a woman who is nival ala goy, who's had a relationship with a non-Jew, is also to Cohen. Posuk in Chumash, Emor, Isha, Zona, V'chalala. What's a Zona? One of the definitions of Zona is nival ala goy. Now, this creates all sorts of questions, by the way, because it can be a big issue about each other. All sorts of cases. People may have had relationships with a non-Jew. So often you don't know. We don't know. We don't go and ask people's entire history, especially from whatever, in terms of their relationships. But it does sometimes come in front of Beis Din, where you have a Balas Tshuva, for example, who comes to Beis Din and says, I've got a problem, because I did have relationships with non-Jews, and that's a problem with Kohen. It's a big issue. Right? With Kahuna, right? It's a big question. It's a good question. It's a good question. You have to. Sometimes you can't necessarily ask what you have to ask. You don't have to ask. You have to be choshish, whatever. Okay, that's a bigger topic. It's a bigger question. It's a bigger issue. It's a big issue, right? No, it's a big issue. It really is. It's very complicated what you can and what you don't have to ask. But this case is open and shut because she has a child from a non-Jew. Right? It's clear. Yes, she's obviously never a goy, and therefore she couldn't marry him. But the only way out of it could have been to work if he wasn't a Kohen. But unfortunately, we've got very good records. So it went back 3 generations. Well, his father, his father, and his grandfather all had Kohen. Once you got back to the 1950s, and it was still a Kohen. Yeah, it wasn't really good. So we didn't do it.
What's the solution?
Nothing. Can't help them. I'm really sorry we can't do the wedding. It's very sad. They went. I think they went. Yeah, probably went to reform.
Are you serious?
They're not from. Unfortunately, very sad. It's very sad. Very sad. It's sad. We want to help people, but at the end of the day, we will say the same thing to people. We are just guardians. We are custodians of the halacha. It's not within our remit to change it. But it was. But as there was a case where we wanted to make him not occur, right?
Can I ask something the other way around?
Yeah.
You
can. You have permission.
Okay. Where do you only need 1/8? I mean, that is unusual.
So that's right. Kahuna has different rules. Kahuna has different. In terms of establishing Kahuna, the chiddush is that 1/8 is only not good enough if you've got Oren, you've got Adim who pass. Adim, but you can't come along 1/8. That's not going to come on trick. Adim. But if I've just got a coil, I've just got a rumor out there that's saying that someone has got a disqualification, then 1/8 is good enough. The whole concept of coil, these sugis and ksubas are very complicated, is a big question. Like what weight do you give to rumor? It can be a big one. There's a famous example of Rav Moshe. Everyone knows the story, Rav Moshe under the chuppah. I think there's a famous story of Rav Moshe fighting where under the chuppah someone came along and said, I'm telling you he's a mum's, something like that.
That's very helpful contribution to it.
Yeah.
What
Carried on. Something like that. I think it was even a family member, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the exact story to find out the story. It could have been a mother or something. It was like a really, and there was a mission, you meet Allah immediately. That particular scenario is Ein Nemen, it's not believed, and that's it. Carried on.
This is my question to you. Which is more important to another mum to the same level, same weight as level, same level of weight?
No, what do you mean? Mums that can't marry anyone.
I can't remember. I'm telling you how much do you have to find out? There was a case for Moshe Feinstein, and they came in and said, "Oh, he's not an answer," and they trying to work it out. In other words, they were trying to. They're being very makeup, something like how you clean.
No, with Mamzeris, we always try to solve it if we can. So what do you mean to solve it?
Everything is
you knew about that with this case?
This for the marriage or the Mamzeris case?
Mamzeris case.
Mamzeris case was a case in Moshe Feinstein where it was apparently clear cut. He came towards him, and the first thing he said was, "No, they're not mums, they're not mums," and they worked that afterwards. He was
I don't know what the specific case was.
In America, there was a lot of fakes than it was, and they ruled a huck out for making all the
We always try with Mamzeris, even nowadays as well. If we can solve a case with Mamzeris, we do. Oh, I don't. We always try. We try and help if we can. Mamzeris is a much greater achrayas, responsibility that rests on Beis Din to try and solve. Because mamzeris is such a churban. It's such a churban. There's no way you can do them out. We have some families, they come every generation. They came in the 1970s and they come every generation to try and solve it. So we can't help them. It's never it's terrible. It carries on, yeah, of course. The mamzeris cases. What? Of course we do. We have a black book. We have the black book. It's actually a black book. It's terrible. It's a tragedy. I mean, there are not so many cases, but you're dealing with the whole yichus of the whole country. There are going to be nebuch. Unfortunately, there are cases. No. No, it's midrabanan. We don't allow it. We don't do chuppus mamzerim. So they shouldn't continue.
Really?
Yeah. Even the halacha and mamzer kamara mamzerus, the convention for a long time, it's brought down in the poskim, is not to do siddur kiddushin mamzer to mamzer.
Because?
And no ger, mamzer can marry a ger as well. But no ger is going to want to marry a mamzer, because then the children are mamzerim. It's a churban.
But if a
It's a churban. Every way you look at it, from whatever angle you look at it, it's a massive problem. It's terrible. It's a terrible tragedy. We won't do siddur kiddushin for mamzer and mamzeris. I don't know whether there's no one in the world who will do it. We don't do it, as far as I know.
You're not perpetuating.
No, because it perpetuates mamzerim. That's the problem. What?
Sign someone to the end.
Yes. That's right. That's why you don't do siddur kiddushin, because it's you're then perpetuating the problem.
So they're signed anyway.
No, because then their children are all mamzerim. So you're making more mamzerim.
You're trying to cut down the number of names, like genetic disease.
Yeah, it's awful. It is a terrible thing. Yeah, it's a terrible tragedy. Anyway, so again, I could tell you stories the whole time. I have to save some. So many things. There's so many things. Yeah, we'll go back to. But the case we sold the mamzer, not sold the mamzer. This was sold many generations. It was sold in the 1990s. But I came up recently because the person is now reaching marriageable age, and the history of the case is incredible, unbelievable. 2 weeks. They proved that she became pregnant 2 weeks after she got her get. So it wasn't a mamzer. I mean, it was a very sordid case because she shouldn't have been with this other guy and everything else. But in the Meister, the guy wasn't a mamzer, the kid, because it was just after. It could prove the conception was just after. They managed to prove doctor's letters all. Crazy story, but saved the kid. I mean, it was like, this is the work. This is what you have to do. It wasn't me. I'm doing me. It was like Diane show years ago. What?
Man is a mamzer, but if it going to converts.
Yeah. No, mamzer can marry a ger. Mamzer can marry a ger.
If a mamzer goes with the goiter, and then the kid converts, is that what?
No, then the child, that's different. Then, but that's not allowed. Can't marry a non-Jew. If they did, then that's okay. The mamzer. That's the case of Rabbi Tarfon in the Mishnah. Tarfon says, how can mamzerim become tahar? Mamzer knows his shifcha. Right? Which is la mutter la halach. He can sell himself as an eved, and he can marry a shifcha. Right? And then the child goes after the mother. And the child is not a mamzer because the child is not Jewish. The child is of the ship, right? Right? Yeah, exactly. This is the problem is that there's a very big question of when you can do that nowadays because it has to be real avdus. And is there anywhere in the world where there's a real evet concept of a shifra? Anyway, lots more to talk about, but we have to continue. So this is Malin Kanapiyadach. Now, sorry, the bottom of Lamed Aleph on base. Now, Rabbi Loza says. Rabbi says, if there's no oir in you, right? That's what he says. If there's no people who are that's what Rabbi he qualifies. Rabbi Yehuda says you need eidachot is good enough unless there's eight. If there's eight, we need 2 8. Right? If there's eight who we're saying is not a kohen. This is the third opinion. He says malen lekahuna al pi eidachot. He says you can be malen lekahuna al pi eidachot. You can do that, not a problem. You can just be malen lekahuna al pi eidachot. What's Rabbi Shimon Shimon Gamliel is the same as Rabbi Loza. They're both saying the same thing, right? They're saying you can be ma'ale likun al pi eidachot. If you're going to say the difference between them is whether one person, okay, is considered to be enough to disqualify, right? In other words, Rabbi Loza sova ir echad. Rabbi Loza says one person who is ma'arer. That means one person can get up and say this person is not a kohen, and then that's enough to prevent a 1 aid being good enough. You understand? Like 1 aid cannot defeat the error of one person. Okay, maybe that's the difference between them. Rav Shimon Gamliel saw on top of the next Amud, Irar Trey. Rav Shimon Gamliel holds, no, you need 2 Eidim. But if there's only one, an Eid Echad will be believed to be Machshir. So in other words, we're trying to say that maybe the difference between, again, you've got to think of this Mishnah as only 2 opinions, because Rabbi Elazar qualifies Rabbi Yehuda. So you've got Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yehuda over there, and you've got Rabbi Shimon Gamliel over there, right? There must be some difference between Rabbi Shimon Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar. They can't both be saying the same thing, right? So the Gemora suggests maybe the difference is that what is the strength of the question mark that's been raised over the kahuna status, that prevents you being able to rely on one aid. Maybe that's the difference. And Rabbi Elazar is of the view that just one person, right, one aid raising a question about his, or saying he's not a Kohen, is enough to require you, mandate you to have 2 Eidim and one, that's an Ira Achad. You can be Ma'ara just with one, right? And Rosh Hashanah says, no, you need to have 2, okay? And when he says, Ma'ale lekuna pi Eid Echad, he means you can be Ma'ale lekuna pi Eid Echad, right? In a situation where you have one Ira, one person being Ma'ara, but if you have 2, then of course, then you need then an Eid Echad will not be believed. Okay, the Gemara says that can't be. Rabbi Yochanan says everyone holds ein ira pachas mishnayim. An ira is never less than 2. The concept of ira is never less than 2.
This is an Eidim that have come to say knowledge.
Yes,
That's what ira is.
precisely. Ira is Eidim who are coming along and they are saying, right, that this person is not a Kohen. We'll see the Rashbam now. He spells it out very carefully, very clearly. That's why it's a little bit confusing, this Gemara. When it says Orerin, it means 2 Eidim coming along and being Ma'ara. Ma'ara means to stir things up. It means to but it really means giving Eidos. That's what's going on here, right? They're being Ma'ara about his Kohen status. Rabbi Yochanan says, Ein Ira Pachas Mishnayim. To have the status of Ira, you need 2. I'm not interested in 1. So what if 1 comes? What if 1 comes? If 1 comes, it's just a coil. It's just a noise. It's just a voice, right? Which hasn't got the status of Ira. Okay? So that can't be the machlokas between Rabbi Elazar and Shimon Gamliel, because they both refer to the concept of Orin, and Orin is always 2. So we need to solve what exactly the machlokas is between them, right? So the Gemara is going to do that in a second. Before we do that, let's see the Rashbam. Okay. So Rashbam is 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines before it gets wide. The Talib Ashli Rav Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Kulus Fi'ulu, they all hold. They all hold. We're not worried about the cheapening of Beis Din and Farish Ravashi Maskana. As Ravashi is going to explain, we get to the very end of the Gemara. Ein Malin Ikuna lahachzik Odom b'Kohen, to be machzik a person as a Kohen, le'achol b'trumati truma, v'la'avad avodah, to do the avodah Beis Hamikdash, v'liso eskabov to duchen al pi Eid Echad, on the basis of 1 Eid hami'ido shu Kohen, who testifies that he's a Kohen. Can the Farish Rabbi Elazar lekami b'shmaitin, as Rabbi Elazar explains later on in the sugya. Omer Rabbi Elazar says, Ein Mosai, or he's going to explain now. Ein Mosai, that's the difference between lekame and lekamon, right? You know that. Yeah, useful bit of general knowledge. If you see the word lekame, it means immediate. If you say lekamon, it means not immediately, but later on. Whenever you see it. Yeah. When is this? When can you not be malel lekuna al? When there are people who are questioning, Eidim haposlemoso. It means Eidim would disqualify him as is explained. Soon. But a Farish Dibber Yehuda, he's coming to explain Rabbi Yehuda. He's not coming to be cholek on Rabbi Yehuda. He's coming to explain. Rabbi Elazar is coming to explain Rabbi Yehuda. Yeah. If you haven't got Eidim, you've just got a coil. You just got a noise, right? What's a noise? It means what it says. It means a noise. It means people, someone, whatever, is making a noise and saying this guy. Yeah, exactly. This guy. Yeah, that's right. It's a question. What exactly? What exactly is it? It's clear it's not Eidos. That's for sure.
Just general rumor, scam on very key.
Yeah, but the question is, what does that mean?
It means you hear rumors that he did this, he did that. There's no eaters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be a rumor, and it could be a newspaper.
Yeah.
It's much more.
No, what I'm saying is like this: is it a rumor? Is the difference between a koil and edus the manner, right? The manner in which it takes place. The edus has to be delivered, formally, like in front of a beis din, for example. Does that make it edus? And everything up to that point is a koil. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's right. That's the key thing, the informality. Yeah, the informality. Yeah.
Until someone comes up to you and says, "I everything for the
Yeah. The question is whether edus. The question is whether edus is not edus until it's in front of beis din. That also could be right.
How you find eaters?
Yeah, maybe it needs to be in front of beis din. Until that, it might be a koil. Yeah.
What you have with the straight away?
Yeah. No, it could be.
By the way, this is always these ma'arim are only challenging the Kohen. They're not challenging the witness to the Kohen.
No, they're just challenging his Kohen status.
Yes, so
they're challenging the Kohen.
It's not a situation of how do you know he's a Kohen? I saw him called up.
Yeah.
But you were this. It's not Aiden's. They're not trying to. It's not an Aiden's own witness.
No. This is challenging his Kohen status. The classic case of challenging his Kohen status is his mother was a grusha or whatever.
This is how it's an Aiden's own with Marcus.
Yeah.
This is not Aiden's own.
No. Absolutely. Yeah. So the Gemora says, yeah. One aid is enough to destroy the kol. Or contradicts the kol. Definitely where there are people raising question marks. Rav Shimon does not say that one aid is believed. When he says you are male likuna, he's talking where there is no urin. So if there are urin, right? If there are people questioning, then Rav Shimon clearly would not say that one aid is believed. So when he says malin, you are male piyed echad, it must be the makom shein urin ka'ama, where there's no one rising question marks. The Gemara says there's one era between them. One person. And when it says that in a time when there are urin, it means if there's one aid who disqualifies him, and contradicts the aid who is machshem. So you see again and again, the Rashbam emphasizes the same thing again and again. What is urin? Eidus. These urin are eidus, right? 1 aid, 2 aid, but it's definitely eidus. La'arer. It's like the word er means to wake up. So you like to stir up, to awaken. It's urer. It's all the same. It's all the same word. La'arer means to stir up, because when you wake up, you stir up. It's all the same. It's the same word, right? Yeah, exactly. His uri, his urus, all the same thing. Yeah. Pardon? When you went to Simchas Beis Shavers in Yerushalayim, you experienced his urus. Yeah, that's the same thing. The Rebbe Lezer Sova era, right? The Rebbe Lezer Sova era chad, Havi era. Rebbe Lezer holds that era chad is considered to be an era of ein echad ne'eman olav lachshiroi, and one aid is not believed to be machshem because if you consider it to be an error, that means to say you need 2 aidim to contradict it, right? If Rav Shimon of era tray, or Rav Shimon at the top of the next Talmud, Rav Shimon says you need 2. Al mokum era echad. If you have just one, the echad is believed to be machshem. So we're suggesting that's the machlokas. Says the Gemara that can't be, because Rabbi Yochanan said no. Now the Rashbam says lo yispar sheikh l'koy. It's not clear where Rabbi Yochanan said this statement. Where does it mean? Where did Rabbi Yochanan say it? What was he going on when he said Ein Apachos Mishnah? Tosfos says he was going on this Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan was going on this Mishnah. And when he says Divrei HaKol, he means Shon Gamliel and Rav Loza. That's what he means. Yeah, that's what Tosfos says. So either way, the Gemara says there can't be that's the machlokes. Everyone agrees that it's only 2 edim that will require you to have 2 edim against, right? You're not gonna. If it's only one, then that's clearly not going to be sufficient to be called an error, and therefore it will be enough to have one aid to be ma'ala likuna.
One aid, the coal.
Cool.
There's rumors and there's one aid.
So it's interesting because Tosfos says, in that same Tosfos says that I'm just thinking, you might even talk about your case. You see, there's a Kol, there's a Ben Gurusha. No, okay, we're going to see the case in a minute. But anyway, Tosfos says an aid is actually worse than a Kol. No. Only because of the chazaka. There's a chazaka of his original status, and that gives us strength to an aid. Because without that, the koil will disqualify. The koil will disqualify, will puzzle, but an aid won't. An aid won't. Okay, the truth is, it's really involved in the next bit. So let's hear the Gemora. Let's see how the Gemora resolves it. Anyway, the Gemara's suggestion is like this, and it goes quite a convoluted case. Ela irer trey. We're talking about where there are definitely two aidim that are questioning his kuna status, or saying he's not a kohen. And this is the case. We start off, the position is as follows. We start off with a chazaka that this guy's father is a kohen. He's Mr. Kohen. He was given aliyas. He was given truma. He was over the Beis Hamikdash. Everything you want, right? And all of a sudden, there's a koil which comes out. There's a noise, rumors that this guy, his father, no, I think the guy himself, sorry, the son, was a Ben Gurusha Ben Cholutza. That he was actually a Ben Gurusha Ben Cholutza. Pardon? Yeah, exactly. That means he's apostle Kohen, right? His mother was a Gurusha, mother Cholutza. Va'achtine. So what did we do? We removed him from his status of Kuna. Now that doesn't mean permanent removal. That means put him on the side, temporary suspension. We put him on the side, yellow card. Let's investigate him because we've got to make sure. We want to make sure our kosher kohenim, and we've got to make sure we check things out. Even though it's only a koil, it's a mile. Rosh Hashanah says it's a mile of kohen. It's a special mile with kohuna, and they used to do this. They had kohen and they had a whole based in there, and if it case Hamikdash, there's Gemoras about this. And they used to sit there and they used to investigate things that came up and whatever. Right? We want to make sure the lineage is good, right? V'osa eit echod. Now that stage, an Eid Echad came along and said that he's a Kohen. Kohen Gomer, the Bach adds in, right? He's definitely a complete 100% Kohen. So where have we got to now? We've got Chazak originally, his father was a Kohen. He was having a wonderful time in the Beis Hamikdash. Then we had a koil, a rumor that maybe this guy actually was a Ben Gurush. So we had to investigate, put him on the side. Then an Eid Echad came along and said, no, he's a Kohen. So what do we do? Faskin, put him back up. We said it. The only thing you've got is a coil. You've just got a rumor. Well, 1-8 can defeat a rumor.
Is better than coal?
Yeah, Eid Echad beats coil. Absolutely. Also, this guy's having a bad day. But also, Trey. Two Eidim come along, and they say the Ben Gurush V'Chalutzu. They say he's actually Ben Gurush V'Chalutzu. Now he's in a bit of a pickle because now he's got two Eidim, right? Saying actually. It's not a kohen anymore. I've got two aides coming in front of Basin and saying this guy's mother was a Gurusha. So he's now got one aid in his defense and two aidim against him. So v'achtine. So what do? Obviously, we take him down. Now, this is not a take him down to investigate. This is presumably, right? This is a real taking down. Yeah, this is a real removal from office. This is the red card. Because you can't, Echad Mokum Shnaim is irrelevant. 1 aid against 2 is irrelevant. So he's a bit finished. But also and then another aid comes along and says he's a kohen. Another one. So now you have 2 against 2. So now you've got 2 machshirin, shnai machshirin, right, and shnai poslim. Now it's interesting. Would you say that they're on the same level? The 2 are machshir and the 2 are puzzle? Why not? Why not? Yeah, because they're not separately. Is that bad?
Can't be sure about the one.
Not necessarily. I mean,
what's the chiddush of coming together? I'm sure the point is whether or not it's Eid or
Right, so now you've got 2 against 2 now. It's just that the Eidim Machshirim didn't come at the same time. They came 2 different points in time. So that's the point. So the Gemara is going to say, it says like this. We're assuming now the Kulei Alma Mitzvah for Eidus. Everyone holds that the issue of coming at separate time is not a problem. You can join together Eidim who one came on Monday, one came on Tuesday. It doesn't matter, right? You can join them together and use them in that way. In right, even if they are made and not in front of each other. Okay, big deal that, by the way, huge deal. And we'll see the Gemara later on. The Gemara is going to bring the exact cases. It's a massive deal. You can have a case where Reuven turns up in Beis Din on Monday and says that I saw Levi kill Shimon. Okay, the next day Yaakov turns up in Beis Din. I saw Levi kill Shimon. So if you say Mitzvah for Eidus, you go Mitzvah Eidus on. So you put Shimon to death. You got 2 Eidim. Normally, you don't think of Eidus like that, right? Normally, you think of 2 Eidim standing there and Beis Din together, and we try to see if there are any discrepancies between them or whatever. You still have to do all the Drisha v'Chakira, like the Gemara says in Makkas and everywhere else. You got to do all the investigations. But at the end of the day, that's what we say. So we're assuming everyone holds you can Mitzvah Eidus. And now we're coming on to our point. Now, and here the concern is: are we concerned about the cheapening of Beis Din? And that is the machlokas between Rabbi Elazar and Shimon Gamliel.
Can you clarify?
I'm going to. Rabbi Elazar holds, since we've taken him down, lo maskin on lay, you can never put him back up again. Since you took him down on the basis of the 2 Eidim who came along and said he was no good, forget about the early stages. Why we have to have that whole thing we'll come to. But think about the Eidos here, right? You've got Eid 1 saying he's kosher. You've got 2 Eidim saying he's possible. Another Eid saying he's kosher. Says Rabbi Elazar, as soon as you've removed him formally, not the investigative processes earlier, the formal removal from office with 2 Eidim who say this guy is a chalal, you're finished. Why? Because we're worried about what he looks like to Beis Din. Now this is the chumrah. This is a chumrah. This is the lust of the Beit Dinah, which ends up being machmer on this guy's kuna status. You understand? If you weren't worried about the way he looks to Beis Din, again, because we hold Mitzvah Eidus on, you can join together the Eidus. So if we weren't worried about the way it looks to Beis Din, we can maybe bring him back. Okay, you'll say it's still 2 against 2. Okay, leave that for the moment. But the point is that it's because of Zilusa de Beit Din, because of the way it looks to Beis Din. Everyone's going to say, you're ridiculous. You know what you're doing. One day you say this, one day you say that, one day it's kosher, one day it's possible. You know what people are going to think. And therefore, as a result, what happens? We say, finished. This guy is never occurring again. Shimon says, no. We took it down, we put him back up, and we're not worried about the way it looks to Beis Din. We're not worried about it looks to Beis Din, okay? Now, obviously, we've got to work out how this fits into the Loshen. Wait, one second. We've got to work out how this fits into the phraseology, the phrases that the terminology, right? How does that fit into what Rabbi Yehuda says, or sorry, Rabbi Elazar says, or Shmuel says? We have to work out how it fits in. But just to understand conceptually what we're doing here, we had a problem, and that was, what is the machlokas between Rabbi Elazar and Shmuel? They both seem to say the same thing. They both seem to say that Malin Likuna al pi eid echod. You're allowed to be machsher kain al pi eid echod, right? There must be a machlokas about something. Says the Gemora, the case is this whole case, and Rabbi Elazar says, with the qualification, in other words, the way he qualifies Rabbi Yehuda, who says ein malin lekuna pi eid echod, right? Rabbi Elazar says that if there are orurin, if there are Eidim Psulim who come along and say you're disqualified, then even if another Eid comes along afterwards and you've got your Eid Echod, another Eid Echod joining together with your first Eid and now saying, right, you should be able to reinstate him, you can't do that because of the Zilusa debate and the way it looks to Beis Din. Whereas Rav Shmuel says no. He says no. He says you can, because not a problem. We're not worried about the way it looks like to Beis Din.
We've never been concerned about Zilusa de Beis Din before.
But we are here.
Here we are, but never. I mean, what are you saying? Before a case has been clarified one way or the other.
That's different. Before it's been clarified, it's different. Here, based on given a psak. That's the difference. That is the difference. Based on given a psak. Based on given a psak. So now, to reopen it again in this way. No, it's different. It's different. It's not the same. They have aid, you have aidim, and then other aidim come along and say you are disqualified. Yeah.
But this is not the same. It's not the same because with Aiden's own win, you haven't made a decision. You're simply saying that the Aiden are false.
But the base didn't believe the other pair of things. So there's a level of formality that goes through the process. Well, the base didn't revolve.
Yeah, you're saying why is it that we don't say this in other scenarios? And that's what we had to ask before, really. Why is it to what extent are we concerned?
About
yeah.
It just seems it's picked up loose.
Because with Aiden's own win, you're not flipping your testimony.
The base is flipping. The minute you say from one to the other, the base say, okay, we immediately do a second.
They haven't made the base involved. They haven't done exactly.
No, but Jeremy's point is a fair point. Let's say you have a case where you have Aidim will come along and a Meidim based in, and you accept the Aidus, okay? And the based in is your psak, and they say, right. And the next day, two Aidim come along and says, couldn't happen. Couldn't do that, right? You couldn't have been. Now, you didn't actually put the guy to death because we know that's one of the halachos of Eidim Zomin, kasha zoma v'lo kasha also, right? So the next day is a problem because it couldn't be the next day. Once you give him a psak, you have to do it that day, right? There's no such thing as malin. Yeah, it's called you can't be malin. What's it called? Yeah, that's right. It's halonas hadin. You're not allowed to do, yeah. You're not allowed to do that. But you can have a scenario where based on issue of psak, and then later on that day, the other agent come along. So the question is, why is there no zilusa debate dinner in that case? Now, the simple answer to you is that the Torah says you have to accept the agent. The Torah says, yeah, that's what Eidim Zomin is. The Torah talks about Eidim Zomin, it tells you the scenario. Is right. So that's not a satisfactory answer. So I would like to say, like I said earlier, let's revisit it. Let's keep it. The scope of zilus to be dinner we have to understand still. But anyway, this case, we haven't solved yet the three trees. On the contrary, all we've done so far is made it into a one. Well, it's machlokes. We're saying one tree exactly. We're saying one manda omar is choshesh for zilus to be dinner, and the other one is not. Right, the other one is not. So that's very problematic. So we haven't quite reached the end of it. So the thing is, yeah. So if the the way again, just to get the flow of the Gemora, I want to carry on a bit. We'll have to go back all over the Rashbam to explain this in more detail. So we'll clarify everything, all the points we brought up, but just to understand where the Gemara is going with this, because it's all one piece. Maskif lo Ravashi. So Ravashi, you with me? Halfway down the Amud. Yeah. Maskif lo Ravashi. Ravashi asked a question on this. If the whole machlokus between Shimon Gamliel and Rabbi Loza, right, is about the question of, do we reopen the case once you've removed him from office, you've stopped him being a kohen or not? And it's all talking about the question is illustrated debate dinner. So why is it that Rav Shimon Gamliel would says the words malin likuna al pi eid echod, right? So Shimon Gamliel is Rabbi Loza. Why is it that Rabbi Loza uses the phraseology that you can't? Rabbi Loza says you can't put him up, right? Bring him back up because of the concern of zilusa debate dinner. Ein malin al pi eid echod, right? The implication is that if it were two Eidim, you could. But if the concern is Zilusa debate dinner, right? Doesn't matter how many Eidim come along, right? You're still not going to put him back into his position of kahuna. So it doesn't work if that was the machlokas. Ela Omar Ravashi, rather Ravashi says, and this Ravashi is what the Gemara was going on when he said Ashli Rav. According to everyone, we're not worried about Zilus debate dinner. No one is worried about Zilus debate dinner. No one, neither Rabbi Loza, and Rabbi Loza, remember, is explained Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Loza, Rabbi Yehuda, Shmuel, no one's worried about Zilus to Beidin. No one's worried about what it looks like. And the whole machlokes is, can you be mitzaref edim? Right? That's the machlokes. So the case is the same. Rav Ashi is not revising the case. You understand? He's not revising the setup. The setup being Chazaki was a Kohen, there was a Koil, but he wasn't a Kohen. Then one aide came along and says, yes, he's a Kohen, right? Well, by the way, the Rosh Hashanah is going to explain that convoluted beginning bit, why you need that whole piece, is because it's obvious. Because why would one aide come along and testify someone's a Kohen? No one's walked into shul and said, by the way, I'm giving Eidos, Avromi Kohen is a Kohen. Why not? Because Bli Ayin Hara, Baruch Hashem, there's no reason to think he's not a Kohen. All right? I hope so. No. Do you understand what I'm saying? The point is, why does the setup have to be? We had a chazaka, this guy's father was a Kohen, and then there was a Koil, and then there was one aide who came along and said, he's a Kohen. Because no aide is going to come along and say you're a Kohen unless there's a Koil, unless there's a challenge. This is a reason to suspect it, right? Fine. So we have this aide who comes along and says that someone is a Kohen. You have two aidim who come along and say he's not a Kohen, right? He's not a Kohen. And then you have one more aide who comes along and says he is. And what Rav Ashi says is, no one's worried about Zilus debating. No one's worried about changing minds. No one's worried what it looks like I'm based in. We are not in the PR department here. We don't care about PR. What we do care about is, can you join together two aidim when they don't give Eidos at the same time? He was on Monday and he was on Tuesday, or it doesn't work. Right. It doesn't work. No. So there's a machlokas. There's a machlokas about that. The Gemora says, and it's in the same machlokas about these two tanoim. The son of the bride says the first case is not our case, but it's brought because of the second case. Eidos can never join together until both Eidim see it at the same time. That means they see the case at the same time. Even if they see it one after the other, Shemukok says it also works. That means to say that one of them says he lent him from on Sunday, and the other one says I saw him on Monday, whatever. Yeah, it's not seen at the same time. The question is clearly, are they testifying about the same event or not? That's one machlokas. And the second case is the Eidos cannot be established in Beis Din unless they both testify at the same time. That's our case. They give Eidos at the same time. Rabbi Nosson Omer Shomin Dvarav Shel Zeh Hayom. You hear his words today, and when the other guy comes tomorrow, you listen to his words. So we're saying like this: the machlokas between Rabbi Loza and Shimon Gamliel is the same machlokas between the Tanakama and Rabbi Nosson. Can you join together? Can you be mitzaref Eidos when it was on different days? But as Rav Ashi has concluded, everyone agrees. If you learn the machlokas in this way, everyone agrees we're not worried about Zilus to be dinner, and that was why Rabbi Nosson paskened the way he did in our case about Chazaka of Karka, that even though Beis Din have issued a psak that it belongs to Ruvain, now that Shimon has got equal level of Eidos to Ruvain, we remove that psak. It looks like the Beis Din were foolish and were sort of like, wishy-washy. It doesn't matter. You got to do the right thing. You got to do the right thing. You got to follow the right psak, and that is the conclusion of the Gemora. We haven't finished, obviously, because Mr. Next time we've got to see all the Rashbam. There's a lot more details here, and try and work out a bit more about the parameters of Zilus to Beidina. But that should give you, that's clear. Hopefully that's clear enough on the structure of the sugya and where the sugya was going to. Okay. Yeah. Let's finish what Karen is. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
See you soon.